Hey everyone, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Pod Guide, created to share the collective wisdom of everyday entrepreneurs who are bringing their visions to life, the ones in the arena. We've all read the same billionaire books, but what about the wisdom from the entrepreneur next door? The ones building, learning, failing forward, and figuring it out one step at a time. I'm your host, Britt Rodriguez, and every episode we're bringing you honest conversations, fresh insights, and lessons from entrepreneurs just like you. This is your place to learn, grow, and get inspired by your fellow business owners who are actually out there building businesses today, not just dreaming about them. So, let's get started. Hey everybody, today I am joined by Heather Hall, founder of Sapphire CFO Solutions. Heather is a seasoned finance leader with decades of experience as a CFO, and now she helps founders through her fractional CFO firm by turning complex financials into clear, empowering strategy. In this episode, we talk about why finance should be seen as leverage, not just support, when a business is ready for a fractional CFO, and how the right financial story can completely change a company's growth trajectory. Let's get into it. Heather, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, Britt. I really appreciate the invitation and looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, let's start off right off the bat. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on right now.
Sure. So I'm Heather Hall. I've spent the last 3 decades in finance, probably the last 20 years as a chief financial officer, and have really spearheaded successful acquisitions of the companies that I've worked with. And, finally after the last one, I thought, I'm going to go out on my own. I've got a lot of knowledge that I want to share. I really feel it's important to let that ripple out, empower others. And so I started my own company. It's a fractional CFO firm. It's Sapphire CFO Solutions. Chose that name. I was very close with my grandmother, and sapphire was her favorite stone. And I just like the alliteration, Sapphire CFO Solutions. So that's it. And my focus is on growth companies in financial services, SaaS, and tech-enabled sectors. That's really been my sweet spot again over the last couple of decades, if you will. And so it's going really well. I'm just really enjoying it. I feel like I have this fractional CFO expertise, but then also really serve as a coach and somewhat of a mentor to these CEOs and founders of these young companies.
Nice. I love the story. I love that I love when a name connects to something very special. And the alliteration you talked about there, I'm a former educator.
It worked.
So that like grammar, English, love that. So like the fact that you brought that in, I love that so much. So great story behind your name. And so, okay, so what can you tell me a little bit more about that transition from doing, your CFO role to then branching out? Because that's the start of you being an entrepreneur, right? Like that can be very scary. So how was that, and what really inspired you to do that instead of be afraid and stay back?
Sure. So, well, I co-founded a company where I was the CFO, also head of HR. I've actually been doing HR since 2008, but finance is me.
Love it.
Definitely. It just I had done it, and then it was, a good value prop for these other companies that I helped out. So co-founded a startup in 2016. It was called 280 Cap Markets, and we built the first cloud native bond platform, really to create transparency in the market and level the playing field for registered investment advisors. Not a lot of transparent, like pricing transparency in the bond market. So that really was kind of inspiration, because we went from just a concept. I mean, that was it. So I really built out all the finance and HR functions. And so after doing that and just really learning more about the startup world, I just found this, in networking, right, with other founders and CEOs. I just found this consistent pattern is that, many founders, they're great with their products, their services, their vision, but they really lacked a financial roadmap. And so that's where I really kind of saw this pain point, and really where I could help. I like to say that, numbers tell a story, but most founders really haven't been taught how to read it. So I really kind of set out, I just wanted to make finance less intimidating and more empowering to folks. And I feel that where, one of my talents is I can really take, the numbers, the strategy and the narrative and just do storytelling around it. Okay.
Mm.
Like, here are the numbers. Let's have them tell the story behind the growth. I
Mhm.
also think I had an undergrad degree in anthropology, and that really brought a lot of context to everything for me. And I could write really well. I definitely don't feel like I fit that mold of an accountant, right? Or CFO. Like, feel like I have a personality, and I've tried to let that shine through with creating these narratives for the founders. People crave clarity, simplicity, not complexity, and that's what I really try to do with Sapphire.
I love that, and that was actually a question I had for you was when you said that, because you say numbers tell a story, um,
Mhm,
but most founders don't know what that is. And
mhm.
again, as my educator background, I love anyone who can take something that's a little bit more complex, or it's almost, or maybe it just really doesn't make sense to people, like something like numbers, and that doesn't translate into story for them. And then you can take that. That is a skill, and there is a beautiful art to that. And so the fact that you can do that for entrepreneurs is wonderful, because you're right. A lot of people, like, we're up here in this visionary dreamland a lot of time.
Totally.
And that's beautiful. We need that.
It is.
That's what gets things going, right? But we need those at the end of the day, it's sales, it's numbers, that's
Mhm.
what help drive a business. And so the fact that you can take that and put it into a way that they can understand is really impressive.
And I also think it's, I had another role after that startup that I talked about, Tweety Cap Markets. We did end up going through a very successful merger with an investment bank out of Florida. So
Nice.
I know where you're based. And
Florida.
they they had a CFO. And so I actually interviewed with the CEO, and he said, Heather, we want to keep you on. What do you want to do? Like, we have a CFO. He's, he's like employee number two. He's been here. He goes, but I'm really impressed by your work, etc. And so I thought about it for a minute, and I said, I thinking perhaps something like a chief administrative officer role, perhaps of the tech division, where I'd work with one of my co-founders of 280. And I already chatted with him, and he was saying, he's amazing. Uh, but he said, I need help, like, with the finance and, really understanding, what all is in this tech org.
Mm.
And so I actually got that role. And so with that, I, yes, I was kind of like the CFO of the division, but I also interfaced with all the executive department heads. So, HR, legal, sales, ops. And I just loved that role. And so I think, the modern CFO needs to be able to do that. You need this cross-functional collaboration
Mm.
across the entire org, and you need to understand it, right?
Yeah.
Finance, it's not a silo. And so that role it was actually one of my favorite roles. And then also, again, working with my co-founder, who was technically, my boss, but we're colleagues and peers. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but just kind of fun. And so now it's just really nice for me to be able to impart that knowledge, and I know how to interface, right,
Yeah.
across the business. And really important, right? You've got to build trust,
Mm.
right, and create
Major.
that transparency. And again, all of that is going to be, weaved into this narrative
Yeah.
about the business. It's just bringing context to the numbers, which I talked about before.
I love it. And it really is, I mean, it really is a skill. It's not something that, a lot of people really know how to do. And they might be able to take the
Mhm.
numbers and just be like, this, and but it doesn't translate well.
You have
Or
to tell
even,
the why,
yeah,
the why
exactly.
behind, right?
Yeah.
And what's next, 100%. And it can be intimidating. And again, like with a lot of these startups, a lot of times, like the data, it's all over the place. So what I
Mhm.
like to do is help synthesize all of that, right? Centralize it, right? So there's one source of truth, really important.
Yeah.
But I've seen that like over and over again. And, obviously cash is super important for these startups, right? It's a primary concern. So, just being able to create, I love modeling, really, really like financial modeling,
Nice.
pretty good at it. So it's just important, right? To have a model that pulls in from everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere across the org. And then it's this one central place, right? And you do the forecasting, you have your scenario analysis, you have the cash flow. And I think really a good CFOs, they're not going to be able to tell you, well, not only will they tell you your cash position at one time, they're going to tell you how it's been trending and what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
Going out in the future. So we're strategic, like a strategic CFO, right? You're just
Yeah.
not going to sit and report.
Right.
You got to have a forward looking view. It's not a reporting function, right? Most founders see finance as this review mirror.
Right.
And that's not what it is. In part, of course, but you don't want to just regurgitate what's happened in the past.
Yeah, and, like, kinda on that note, I know at one point you had framed, like, um, that finance isn't just support, it's leverage, right? And
Correct.
so I love
Yes.
that's on your website, I believe. And so
Yes.
can you expand on what that means and how really helps founders see that difference? Like, not just supporting, it's leverage. We
Sure.
love that word,
Uh,
right? So
Oh,
yeah.
and it's so true. So again, like finance isn't just this reporting function, something, in the review mirror. It's a growth catalyst, right? For every ambitious founder. So again, it's not reporting or compliance. It's strategic, in nature. And again, just that growth catalyst. And,
Yeah.
and I also think, saying that it's leverage, I want these founders to feel empowered and you can use this to your advantage and it should be available, right, for everybody. That's another reason like I lean towards becoming an entrepreneur and starting this fractional business because it provides founders like they can afford to have this world-class finance function,
Right.
right? It's affordable, it's a flexible model. Like you don't need to wait until you're at this decision point, like you're going to have a conversation about fundraising, or, things come up and you don't want to be behind the eight ball. You want to have already had, someone who is a leader in the finance space, like building your infrastructure, getting you ready to scale. Because if I found more often than not, you bring, say, me in at that point we're like, oh my gosh, we got to get our books in order and the reporting and the modeling. But then, I run into issues like with the data, with the numbers, right? And you got to have integrity with your numbers. And so that takes time, right? To fix, if you will.
Yeah.
And so just much better to be forward thinking and bring someone in right away. And again, that fractional model just helps you do that. You can afford it.
Yeah, this I see this fractional model a lot right now in the industry, and I
Me
really
too.
love it because as a small business owner, it's like I think you guys brought such a wonderful solution, right? Because like we need, for instance, another fractional model I see a lot is sales, like sales teams that are fractional. Because
Hmm.
a lot of founders, to your point, they're up here and doing great, and maybe product is their thing, right? And they are great on that,
Yeah.
but they do not like sales, like hate it with every fiber of their being, don't want to do anything with
It's
it
so
at all.
important
I
to have a
know.
good
I'm like, it's vital,
sales model,
right? It's
right? And
vital to
pipeline. It's
everything.
huge. It's huge.
But they don't even know what a funnel is. Like they are just
Yep.
all about their product and about the delivery, and that's great. But they need to bring in the sales help. Lots of us. I was talking to an amazing founder this morning, and both of us, which I'll ask you this question in a bit, but both of us said like you have kind of like a yuck and a yum whenever you're as an entrepreneur. Like, what's your thing you love, and what's both of us? He was like, oh, accounting. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I was like,
Well,
I
it's not
know.
the most exciting,
Well, so I was like, to
but
some
it's
people it is. They
important.
love it. They love Excel
Yes,
sheets.
sure.
They love break-even analysis. They love P&Ls. Like they love it. And I'm like, that's what's great. Like I love these fractional models because yeah, maybe you can't afford a full-time CFO. You're not there yet. But like being able to bring someone in a fractional capacity is wonderful. So I love that
It's
you
huge.
are doing that. Yeah. And I'm wondering, so can you share an example from Sapphire of like a business or founder you helped with finance that really helped, like you stepped in and it helped change the trajectory of
Sure.
their business?
Sure. So I had one founder, I came in, I want to call them like a 10-year-old startup, a 10-year-old startup, right? So I came in to build out their SaaS models, right? And I have a lot of IP because I've been doing this for a while. So I have these models that work. Obviously, they're all customized them, but like the bones are there. So, oh my goodness, it was, I'm just going back. I mean, their model, something that should have maybe taken 30 hours, 35, it took over 180 hours because their data was all over the place. And I'm cross checking, right? I mean, they always say that garbage in, garbage out, and it's true. And so I want to validate the numbers that I'm getting. So it took a long time to resolve that. It was a lot of manual effort on my part, just creating like their MRR schedules, etc. Okay, so once we got that all dialed in, they went into a meeting for Series A funding and just being able to, again, provide clarity with the numbers, telling the story, creating the narrative. They walked out with a term sheet. So that was
Mhm.
just so rewarding.
Wow. And
It
immediately
just,
for them, they must have been
yes.
like, whew, so glad you came,
Well,
Heather.
yeah, it makes me feel good. Like I truly do. I love mentoring. Um, I mentor, I played softball in college. I was a D1 athlete. And I now, for the university I attended, I um, mentor the like sophomores, juniors on the softball team that are pursuing careers in finance consulting. There's kind of a cohort of us of grads. And
Nice.
so that's just really rewarding. It's really fun. Same with these founders to be able to kind of like demystify finance for them and just to make it simple, right? We can distill it down to right? The value that you're trying to convey, right? Your value prop. And so that was really exciting. Just recently, I helped a company. They're in the cannabis vertical. They're a data as a service company. So I actually, so I was telling you previously about my co-founder of 280. And then he was my boss right at the merged firm because he was the CTO of the whole org. So he's on various boards, and I knew that he had on a company, actually another company that he co-founded. He had some on the board that had this cannabis company. And again, they're really the data is a service. So they sell data, right? All up and down the vertical. So really kind of a SaaS business. And I was considering perhaps pursuing that vertical instead of, and ultimately decided to stick with what I know, right? Which is the financial services and tech enabled.
Mhm.
But I said, hey, could you make an introduction to me? I just want to learn more about the vertical. It wasn't like a pitch or anything. And so we started chatting with the CEO. And he said, oh, he said, well, through that conversation, I kind of realized, okay, I'm not going to pursue that vertical. Stick with what I know. But he said, hey, you do forecasting because we could really use help. So and
Nice.
they were very organized. He's a really sharp guy, but he had an Excel spreadsheet, with like 30 tabs. And so what I did is I'm telling you, they're my favorite client,
Oh,
but took all of that, centralized everything into this financial model. And then it turns out they were looking to acquire one of their competitors, and that deal just closed. But I
nice.
took the original model and then I built an add-on on top for the acquisition. And so they used my model really to solicit current investors for additional funding, which they got, and then they just closed the acquisition. I think it was a week or two ago. So again,
Awesome.
it's rewarding for them and really rewarding for me. It just makes you feel good.
I love that.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and congrats on that when you see something you're doing, like,
It's
especially as a
great.
coach or, like, I love that you connect it to the coaching side because, like, think about, like, cheering your team on, you've got them all prepped up, and then they go and they kill it. I win a game. You're just like,
Yeah.
you feel so
Awesome.
proud. So what you've done for them, like, I mean, and congrats to your clients because, like, I know that they're on cloud 9, but that was a direct result of how you help them.
Yeah.
So way
They
to
were
go.
pretty excited. It was fun to see the
Yeah.
LinkedIn post of the CEO of the cannabis company. I could just tell he's like beaming. So it just made me feel
Aw,
really, really good. So
I love
yeah, it's a
that.
lot of fun.
This episode is brought to you by our lovely guest, Heather Hall's company, Sapphire CFO Solutions. If you're a founder with a big vision, but your financials feel overwhelming, Heather Hall can help. Through Sapphire CFO Solutions, Heather works as a fractional CFO for growth companies, helping founders bring clarity to their numbers, build smarter financial models, prepare for growth, and make confident decisions. If you're ready to stop guessing and start leading with a real financial roadmap, visit sapphirecfosolutions.com to learn more. So I have a fun question, but it's going to be a two-parter because I feel like companies that need. I do a lot of two-part questions around here too, so I hope
Oh,
you're
that's
cool with
great.
that, Heather.
Of course.
Because I think that's just the way my brain goes. But I think so when I think fractional CFO, I'm thinking we'd have two types of people. Two types of companies here. That's one is I can't even think about anything beyond myself because I am drowning in this business and right at the beginning. And when could I even think about bringing in outside help, right? And then the person who's in there a little bit more, they are developed. Maybe they're looking at the differences between fractional versus a full-time CFO to bring in. So I'm going to ask this in two parts. But that's kind of where I'm going with this. So when would an entrepreneur who is in that very early phase, when would they look to bring in a fractional CFO? When, and I'm sure earlier rather than later, but what are some tips and guidelines you have for them to when they really need to start looking for that finance help so they don't get too in the weeds and have all these things that take 180 hours when it should take 30? What do you say to that entrepreneur?
Sure. So I'll do in two parts also. As you mentioned, a lot of founders, they wait until like an event happens where they need to make a decision. Again, I talked earlier about, okay, they're going to go into a fundraising round, a potential investor, wants the financial data, forecast model, etc. But I always say it's whenever you feel there's a growth story to tell, that's when you should engage. Doesn't have to be a lot of hours, right? Because, in the beginning, like I said, they'll help you build your infrastructure. I always say, you should always have a data room ready, even if it's just kind of skeleton. So you have the central repository where you've got, all the legal docs, obviously the historical financials, forecasts, etc. You have sales pipeline, you have ops, you have your HR. And so just having that as a basis, just really, really helpful. But yeah, my answer to that is anytime you can articulate a growth story is when you should bring in your fractional CFO.
Great. Okay. That is very helpful to know for those of us kind of more in like the starter phase of our businesses at the time or at this time. And then I can also imagine that there are people at a crossroads. I've even known some entrepreneurs recently who had like a full-time CFO, but then they really couldn't either afford them or they didn't utilize them well or whatever, but they ended up going the fractional route and it was such a better fit for what they needed. And so if someone's at like a precipice and they're really, trying to figure out, okay, do I go, I know I need this help. They are fully convinced of that. They are there. They have the story to tell. They are trying to decide, okay, do we go fractional CFO route? Do I hire within? What are your takes on that and your tips to help them kind of make a an important decision.
Sure. So, I mean, I definitely think the fractional is the way to go because a full-time CFO is going to be really expensive and you can't afford it. I find a lot of times someone on the team has done like QuickBooks Online and it's pretty easy, but you get some of the accounting can be relatively complex, in particular, the new revenue recognition pronouncements. And I'm talking, about these SaaS companies, when to recognize, when not, or they might have a bookkeeper,
Yep.
right? But it's nothing against or to downgrade bookkeepers at all. It's the bookkeeper, but a lot of times they're not well versed. They're not accountants, right? They're experts in QuickBooks Online. So they're not familiar, right, with these pronouncements, etc.
Which
So
one?
modeling is a special skill set, right? Doing financial modeling. So maybe you might have like a great like financial analyst, someone who's good with FP&A, but you also need that kind of finance visionary, if you will, the person that's gonna, okay, this is how I love analogies.
Me too.
So I view, which is helpful, right? So it makes it relatable. So
Yeah.
I see the CEO as the coach, and then the CFO is the quarterback. The CFO is going to, again, interface across the org, and they're going to execute that vision. Like they're really great at it. And so I don't know if you have someone on your team that's going to like not be like siloed in their area. And already with startups, folks are wearing a lot of different hats.
Yes.
But you need that person that's going to pull everything together in a cohesive, like I said, that cohesive narrative to really create the number story behind the growth. And I just feel like that's, unless you have that finance person that is strategic, like I see a lot of CFOs, they're not strategic. They're not everybody, but I see it a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I had somebody else, another company approach me and they said their current CFO, they're just not strategic. Right. And they actually shared with me what that CFO is preparing for their board. And I couldn't believe it. It was literally just the P&L on like a slide. And I was like, oh my goodness. Right.
Aw.
So again, that's reporting, right? And that's important, but you really need to be able to articulate the why behind the numbers and then the what next. Right. And you need to be focused on it. Like if somebody on the board says, hey, what's our cash position? Like I talked about earlier, you want to talk about past and future trends where cash is trending. You don't just answer it's 50 million as of today, right? You have to have context behind the numbers. Really, really important. And I just don't see someone else on the team being well versed in all those aspects. I could be wrong, but again, you have specific folks in particular roles, and yeah, they're doing a lot more than just their role, but you need that finance person, and it's got to be somebody that's, not just a bookkeeper or an accountant, right? It does, like I said, it takes a special skill to create the narrative, and I've just had years of experience honing that.
I love that. And I love that you compare it to that, like because I do think lots of us can say, oh, well, we got a bookkeeper. That's not what we're talking about here. Like that. And even though you're saying like it's a very vital role and we need that. Yeah. Like excellent. Keep a
100%.
bookkeeper, but they don't do all these other things. Like you said, like
They don't do the modeling, right? Like I just worked with one of my clients, their bookkeepers. She's lovely, right? But, and does an awesome job, competent. Very competent in what she does. But I had to convert. So SaaS has a very specific set of financials. Like their P&L looks very different. It's structured by function. So like a regular P&L, you're just going to list like, G&A expenses, rent, office supply, et cetera, et cetera. But with the SaaS P&L, it's organized by function. So like the G&A function, so that would mainly be like the CEO, the CFO, just really general functions. You want all of their expenses under the G&A category. Then you have a sales and marketing category. So all the expenses related to sales and marketing, those office expenses that you normally have on one line item in a P&L, you would want the office expenses related to sales and marketing under sales and marketing, office expenses related to your tech team, right? The developers under that function. So it's categorized by function because SaaS has a lot of metrics. They're very particular and specific on how they're calculated. And so you have to have your P&L structured like that. So I was working with this bookkeeper and, she just, I think, felt a little overwhelmed. So, I laid it out. I mapped their current P&L, how it should be categorized as a SaaS P&L, but, it took a long time. So whereas I spent, say, 40 hours building their model, but that excluded it took like over a month for the bookkeeper to get everything kind of, SaaS compliant,
Wow.
SaaS ready, right? In that format. And then their QuickBooks had not been set up because QuickBooks, I think, does a decent job with revenue recognition and creating deferred revenue. She had no idea. She never heard of deferred revenue. So it took probably 2 months now. Now that I think about it, 6 to 8 weeks to get this all set up. And now it's a breeze and she's fine, right? I taught her how to do it, and it's working. So yeah, just to my point is they just don't have the skill set. Accountants either. I found some of my best referrals have come from accounting firms because they're focused on the accounting, right? They're complex accounting, et cetera. They don't have time to do the financial modeling, right? So they're looking with someone to partner with. And that's been awesome. And then also just building relationships with executive coaches. That's been helpful as well because they'll find clients that, hey, you really could benefit from having a fractional CFO.
Yeah, it just takes it to the next level. It's like bookkeepers and accountants and, and they all do such a vital job. It's just that I love the quarterback analogy because you're the one who kind of puts it all together.
Totally.
And that's
You're
so
really good
important.
at executing.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very, very good at execute. I execute really well. And I think that's what a CFO should do.
Yeah,
Across the org, right? And again, it's bringing in that coaching. It's like part strategist, part technologist, part coach. And you've got to be able to coach the other teams across the org to be able to execute because, everything is rolling in again to that centralized financial model.
And you're connected to in this analogy we're using, like the coach who is the founder, business owner, right? CEO. And so you also have that piece that like a bookkeeper or an accountant may not quite have, which is that vision.
Yeah.
So you're taking that and combining the two and making sure that the vision is overall included.
Supported. Yeah. Supported by the foundation of the model, which is supported from the entire organization, right? Just flow stuff.
I love it. I love that. I think it's such a vital thing. So I love that this is something you're helping businesses with. If someone Googled your company right now and landed on your website, would they lean in and want to learn more, or would they quietly say, yikes, and close the tab? Your website is your first impression, and it's either drawing clients in or losing deals right and left. Whether we like it or not, people do still judge books by their covers, and your clients are making decisions about your business before they ever even reach out. At my company, Archer Collaborative, we design high-end strategic websites for businesses whose founders are ready for their online presence to finally align with the quality and professionalism they bring to their clients every day. Our designs are not just pretty. We bring full custom layouts, clear positioning, intentional structure, and smart systems behind the scenes, so your site actually supports your growth. If your business is doing incredible work, but your website still looks like you built it at 11 p.m. 3 years ago, then it's time to let us help you. Visit archercollaborative.com today, and let's build something that is finally worthy of your business and its stellar reputation. Now, I have a question about you as you personally as an entrepreneur. So I
Sure.
alluded to it a little bit earlier, but one of my favorite questions to ask is, and so this is the reason I ask this. It's for those listening who've heard a lot. This is like the one man's trash is another man's treasure, or the yuck yum question. I think
Yeah.
it's so fun hearing what people like and don't like because in the entrepreneur journey, um, gosh, we can do so many things that, like, we could work on for hours and hours and hours and hours, and then some stuff that we literally it's like pulling teeth to get us to do.
Yeah.
I make the illusion in the podcast that, like, this is, like, what I love. The
Hmm.
editing is what I'm, like, just
Yes. Yes.
I cannot. So I use AI as much as possible to help me delegate that. So you
Hmm.
as an entrepreneur, what do you absolutely love? Like what brings you a lot of joy? And then what are you like, I delegated this the first second I could, or I can't wait to get rid of this. It just drives me crazy.
Sure. So, I mean, I think the thing that I really love is I love meeting new people and I love, solving problems. Like I'm really kind of my personality. I want to solve.
Yeah.
So that again, we talked about the experiences that I've had. That's just really, really rewarding. Okay, so I like that. I'm definitely an extrovert, definitely a people person, but I love my spreadsheets too. I love my financial models. Like I can just dig in it for hours. But it's a balance, right? It's a healthy balance. I mean, I don't want to do that all the time. I do love it, but then I crave, right, the human interaction and
Mm,
talking with people and seeing how we can solve something. And
yeah.
it's really, really rewarding. I did some pro bono work. My mom is moving up here. I live up in Sonoma County. I
Mm.
bought the lot next door, building a house for her.
Beautiful
So
place, by the way.
she's,
Man,
thank you.
Sonoma. Woohoo.
It's gorgeous. I've lived in San Francisco for 29 years and then I moved up a couple years ago and just really, really, really happy. My
So
best
pretty
friend
out
also
there.
lives the next town over. So
Oh,
it's a lot of fun.
love it.
But anyhow, the realtor that I used, his wife is an interior designer, super, super talented. And she's met my mom. She loves my mom. So she's like, Mary Lou, my mom, she goes, I want to help you and I won't charge you for my time.
Oh,
And she's just a very accomplished designer. And so her name's Brooke. Brooke and I went on a walk. We both have dogs. So we went on a walk and she was telling me some certain things. She's just having trouble, like really understanding the numbers. I'm like, Brooke, I got you. She's doing all this work for my mom and I'd love to. So I do pro bono work for her, created her whole financial model. And I was just updating my website. I didn't have any testimonials in there. So I've reached out to my clients to ask for some. And her testimonial was just beautiful. And it was all about how she was just really intimidated by the numbers. And it just was chaos to her and how I was able to just bring clarity. And she feels super confident now. And so that's
wow.
like what I love. So see, it involves kind of both, right? I got really
Yeah.
nerdy into my model,
Oh, I love
but
that.
then really just being able to help her and converse and yeah,
And a
that was
friend like
just
that too, like
wonderful.
a family friend.
Oh, she's just lovely. I love the network up here. Like San Francisco was like that, but not to this degree. People are just so lovely and wanting to help and just that it's smaller, right?
Yeah.
It's really called a village that I live in. It's like less than 1,000 people. And I just love it. I love community. I like helping people. It's just nice. So lot of give and take, really. Just a lovely community up here. So the
Mhm.
second half of your question, I mean, I guess it's not that I dislike it, but just really getting into the lead gen and the marketing. But I do like it. Like I like doing the blog posts.
Right.
It's more of like a time, right? Because
Yes.
right now it's just me, and it's a lot. So it's not
Yeah.
nice. I don't really think there's anything that I truly. I'm trying to think that I like hate or dislike about what I do. I mean, maybe I'd say, okay, actually, I would say maybe the data cleansing part of it.
Ooh.
So, because I want to go in and like do the model,
Yeah.
but there's a lot before it. So yeah, I probably say that because it's just, I mean, I'm good at the nitty gritty, but you just get mired in it. And I
Mhm.
want to be more strategic. So I'd say that's probably what I dislike the most is having to go through and just, they don't have anyone else to do it, right? Or
Right.
they think their data's clean and I'm going to cross check and it's not,
Mm.
but then I have to fix it. Where,
Right.
so that's probably, I don't hate it, but not my favorite
Yeah.
because it's just so you're just getting into that minutia, which again is important, but I really want to focus on the future and the forward and being strategic. And this is, not strategic at all, but a necessary,
But
right? In
necessary.
order
Yep.
for you to build. So yeah, that's probably what I dislike the most. Don't hate it, but not my fave.
Not your favorite to jump into. It reminds me of back when I was teaching and it was like lesson planning versus like the
Yeah.
execution of the lesson. And I loved doing the lesson, the teaching
Yes.
part, but like that,
Yes.
all that prep work. But you
I
had to
gotcha.
have it. I had to have it,
You have
right?
to have it.
Or
It's
else there was
it's
no lesson.
necessary. 100%. 100%. It's just like a necessary thing. We were talking about accounting before. So it's kind of funny. I my undergraduate degree is in anthropology, which I loved. But then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I was talking to one of my mom's friends, and her daughter was a CPA, and I was always really good with numbers. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to get my master's in accounting. And I had to take the whole MBA program and then 30 more units in accounting because I didn't have any business classes in my undergrad. And it was my least favorite. Like
Oh
I
no.
just liked all the other courses, but I didn't want to quit. So I stuck with it. So glad I did because it really is the foundation of business. You have to have a basic understanding of it. Well, you don't have to, but I think it's really important. You got to be able to understand kind of the interrelationship between balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, just generally,
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
theoretically, because it's a foundation. So
Yeah.
necessary evil.
Necessary evil. Now, is
Yeah.
that something because we entrepreneurs are always looking to be more efficient. Is that even something one day you could hire someone to come in and do that part for you, like that where you can then just be the visionary? Is that something you can?
Well, so my models, I actually like doing it. I do these, a 3 statement model. So I take the client's, balance sheet P&L and you can create the cash flow from those 2 statements. And so that's and then you have it as the base. And I think it's important. And I want to do that because it helps me understand the business better, right? I'm
Got it.
questioning all the accounts, right? So I get an understanding that obviously, and talking with founders, but general understanding of the business model. And then I already in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, here's their vision and mission. How am I gonna, this is their end goal. How am I going to create the narratives? It just helps me, even if it's subconsciously, kind of start framing that out.
Mm.
And you kind of need to know it, right, to build, like I said, to build out the forecast. And it's kind of like, okay, well, I have this basis, and then when I go and speak to the founders, it just makes it easier because I'm understanding, right, the underlying, if you will, what's gotten us up to this point. Like most founders, and I get it in sales, and I'm generalizing, but their forecasts, you're going to get pretty aggressive numbers, and I need to be able to ground them, and you have to use historicals. But then you combine that with, hey, what are your new initiatives, like any campaigns through sales, your customer service to boost up those numbers. I mean, you can't just look at, say you have historicals, nothing, like kind of in a vacuum, nothing else is going on. Let's just say you can't have these rosy sales, metrics. It's just, you're going to get nailed, when you're, in an investor meeting,
Right.
right? Or say a potential buyer. I mean, it's just, you have to ground it in reality.
Mm.
Okay. What's happened historically? What do we got going on that's going to fuel growth? again, it's about like telling that story, and it has to be grounded. It has to be transparent, has to be believable.
Yeah.
Right. And it has to like data driven, right? Data driven with the story. And so,
So it's really something you still have to do in order to do
yeah, and
the
I
strategizing
think
well.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it for me, and it's pretty easy, right? I've got it down. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's very helpful.
Yeah.
So,
Good. Okay. So it's kind of like more like running a marathon. And it's like, okay, you may not like getting up and doing the 12 miler and the 16
oh,
miler and stuff, but in order to do the
totally,
26, you got to do those others behind it.
totally,
Yeah.
100%. Great analogy. Love it.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I think that's always like a tip too. Like in the entrepreneurial journey, we're never going to like 100% of the things we do, but we still do have
Exactly.
to do
Like
some of the
life,
things. Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's
Like
not all like fun.
no, we could
It's hard.
hire out a
Yeah.
lot of it, but there's always stuff
Oh,
that's like you still got to do it at the end of the day. So,
agree.
so actually that's good that that's your one thing then that's like that you don't love doing, but it's like, you know what? I I can't. I This is still part of my work. It's not something
Absolutely.
I can or should delegate to someone else. So I've
Exactly.
just got to keep doing it. So and then we can,
Sure.
I think we also can be very good with our mindsets and pivot to try to enjoy it more, and stuff
Sure.
if it's something we really can't get rid of.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
I think that's fun and interesting.
Yeah.
So I have a question that just came up while you were talking about this because I think it's fun to hear your story and your journey and your pivoting to where you are now. And I like one of my curiosity questions for you is now that you are you've built Sapphire, it's up, it's running. What what do you love so much more now about being the owner of this company versus when you were like a CFO in other companies? What do you love so much more about having your own business?
Uh, because I'm building my own brand, right? I'm not look, it was fun, but you're not building something for someone else and you're not disposable.
Mm,
Like, look, it's happened and you do all this great work and then you can be let go like that. Like nothing's guaranteed. So I rather build myself and build my brand and promote that brand. Love the flexibility.
yeah.
Like I just love it. I liked going into an office. I'm probably a little more old school. We went fully remote. I was telling you that startup when we merged with that investment bank and I moved over to the tech team and I was so bummed
Oh,
that we were going to be remote because my whole life I'd been going into an office. So it was an adjustment. But then I'm like, oh, I really like this. I tend to, and most of the engineers I talk to, you're kind of on the clock all the time. Like I worked a ton of hours, but some of us would go in once or twice a week. Those of us that were based
good.
in San Francisco. And look, there's nothing like in-person collaboration. I'm sorry, but there's just not. So that was kind of nice. I miss that, but I try to do, networking events and get out. It's important
Yep.
because I can get really focused and kind of not go leave the house for like a week, 2 weeks and not healthy. So I try, I've got my dogs, but it's just
Yep.
nice to have that like in person interaction. And the networking events are wonderful. I went to this one a couple weeks ago in Mill Valley, which is a little bit south of here, just outside of San Francisco. And it was an executive coach and invited me to it. And it was all these women entrepreneurs and founders. And it was amazing. And I made some good contacts and just really fun to celebrate successes, talk about pain points, in your business. And it's just helpful to have, it takes a village, have that community of support. It's really important. And I like to support other founders, especially female
Yeah.
founders.
Well, I
So I can be
appreciate that
really
as a female
supportive.
founder, Heather.
Absolutely.
But that I think that's such
Absolutely.
a great point. Like that's why I'm doing this podcast because I feel like we're all so disconnected. And but yeah, to everyone listening, that is such a wonderful thing. You've already got me like thinking because I've looked up some some entrepreneurial meetups in my area, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I've never actually gone to one, and I think, like,
Great.
as much as, podcasting is wonderful and, connecting with people online is amazing, and do that, like, lots of us, we need that, but, like, don't forget about your community. Um,
Oh, huge.
Yeah, get out
Community
there
is
and learn.
important.
Yeah.
Like that's what you have. Like I think as humans, right? That interaction is really important. Like
Mhm.
and I always feel I notice this. My mom was visiting and I went to this event. I came back. She goes, "Honey, you just seem so happy and energized." And I was. Every time I find I do those events, I'm just really excited. And there's like one or two things, right, that I want to focus on, and it just makes me become, I mean, more engaged. Keeps your mind fresh
Yeah.
and alive, and it's just it's wonderful. It's
Yeah,
really
'cause you're
nice. I
right, we can all
encourage you to do that.
Yes, I think take, even if it's new, it might be a little scary, it might be a little uncomfortable, but you get in there and all the people are just excited to be there and excited to
Oh yeah,
support one another and, like, go do it.
totally.
Like, that's so fun. Especially I live in Orlando, so I'm thinking, like, Disney, obviously. You live
Yes.
in Sonoma County. I mean, gosh, go to a beautiful, gorgeous vineyard and hang out
Oh,
with some
oh
people,
yeah.
right?
It's so nice. You know, when I moved here, I remember driving. I'm like, Heather, if you are ever in a bad mood or stress, you need to like get out of the house and look around. So it's like zero to complain about. You know,
Mhm.
it's just beautiful surroundings, beautiful community, beautiful network. Feel very blessed.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually went there. This is totally off topic, of course, but I went to wine country for my first time last year for my birthday, and I loved it. I just had this like idyllic dream about it,
Yeah.
and oh man, yeah, you live in a stunningly gorgeous
It's
area.
just so nice. My best friend lives over in Kenwood, which is like one village. They're literally called villages, one village over. And when I first moved, because I'd come up like once a quarter to visit her and whatnot. And I found I started to feel really sad every time I left. Even though I love San Francisco, I thought I'd be there forever, but it's an hour, 15 minutes. It's very close. So anyway, when I actually moved, we were in downtown Sonoma, their plaza, which is like 15 minutes from where I'm at. And I was just like, this is just amazing. Like, there was a wedding party and like people come here for vacation. It's like we live here. It's just so beautiful. And fall is my favorite time of year. So all the vineyards are just turning these beautiful colors. It's just stunning. It's just very tranquil and it's just perfect for this kind of phase of my life. And honestly, I feel like more creative here because
Yes.
I'm just feel like not so stretched like I was in the city and
Yeah.
just a lot going on. And it's just quiet and peaceful. And I have noticed, I'm more creative. So channeling into that vibe.
Which I think is great, and I think that's another, like, perk to being an entrepreneur, and look, it's not all rosy sunglasses, like, a
Yeah.
lot of the time, but stuff like that, like, being able because you did when you moved to Sonoma, and living there now, you know that you can do that regardless of
Yeah.
what you're doing for work.
Yeah.
You can take your clients, like, wherever, so you were able to move to a
Exactly.
place that fits your
And
lifestyle
that,
better.
and that flexibility, like we talked about, what I like, I couldn't, like, I would have never been. So, first of all, I would have never been able to move up here unless we had remote work.
Mm.
I mean, I could, but I don't want to that
It's a
commute with the
bad commute,
traffic. I
yeah.
don't want to be on the road for 3, 4 hours.
Right.
I'm just no. And so, you know, the remote work, first of all, afforded me to do that. And now having my own business, right? I can live wherever. I do enjoy having local clients. I mean, and one of my clients, the cannabis firm, they're in DC, but the CEO is going to be out here in Sonoma County over Thanksgiving. So we're going to meet up for coffee. I've
Lovely.
only met him via Zoom.
Oh,
So,
nice.
so yeah, so that'll be really fun. He's actually going to stay in Healdsburg, which is gorgeous, about a half hour north of here. And he asked me for recommendations. So that was really fun. The
Aw,
food here is amazing.
yes, it
I
is.
mean, oh my goodness. So
Like,
he's
some
in
of the best in
Healdsburg.
the country
Yeah. There's a three
out
star. So
there.
I look right where you stand. Like, here's a 3-star Michelin restaurant, a 2-star or 1-star. It's amazing
I
and
love
fresh,
that.
farm to table. So yeah,
Oh,
so really fun.
that is already made because it was about a year ago. It was last December, and we're in November now. So it was last December that I went there, and that's like making me have all
Oh,
those cozy vineyard feelings again. So
yes. Yeah,
that's
even the
exciting.
winter just it rains more than it did in San Francisco, which I kind of wasn't used to, but it's just over the winter. It's not too bad. But kind of December, the last 2 years, has been like just rain. But it's so nice to cozy up, and it's
Cozy.
colder. It's colder than the city,
Yeah.
which I like too. It's just
You can
it's
cuddle up
just
with
a
those red
it's great.
wines and not worry about it. I love it.
Exactly,
I
you
think it's
got it,
so fun.
Frick.
I love that area. You are very lucky. And so that's like a wonderful thing to bring up about that. And I'm so glad that you took the jump and that you went for it. And it's all,
Yeah,
it's moving and it's going. It's so exciting.
yeah,
And so I have two more questions for you. No, sorry, three. The last one's really quick and easy, but so to wrap it up, three questions. One for you. Sapphire CFO. Imagine, Heather, we're talking November 2026, me and you. What would what's your goal? What do you say? Hey, oh, I'm so glad we're here now after a year since I've talked to you. Where do you want to see your company get by then?
sure. So I'd love to expand. I'd love to bring on, more CFOs, right? That could help me, maybe a financial analyst, maybe someone doing the biz dev. I mean, I'd actually like to do that because it's fun and it's different.
Yeah.
So yeah, just have an expanded team, more clients, obviously would be wonderful. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to grow the firm, because again, it's just so rewarding to be able to help people
Yeah.
and right
And
to
it's a huge
to
need.
yeah,
It's
it
a huge
really, really is.
And
It
to give
really
them that
is.
level that you offer of care and custom support,
Mhm.
unique support for their situations, like, there's only so much Heather that can go around, so building out your team,
Agree.
adding some more people,
Agree.
that just means
Agree.
your clients are being better and better served all the time,
Exactly.
so yeah, cool. I hope that when I talk to you in a year's time, like,
Yes.
we're towards
Me
that, which
too.
I'm sure you will be. Okay, question number 2 for you is now, okay, it sounds a little heavy, so just you can just pick one of these. But
Okay.
a book, a podcast, or a social profile, so Instagram, X, whatever,
Hmm.
that you recommend someone to follow. So you can pick any of
Sure.
those: book, podcast, or a social profile.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the option because I was asked what my favorite book was, and I was kind of stumped because I'm really into podcasts. I love them.
Awesome. That's why I
I
don't ask the one. I'm like, people like
Yeah,
different things. So
excellent. Excellent. Thank you for not pigeonholing me. So podcast, I really love law. I just really dig it. And so I've been really into a lot of podcasts that are kind of the intersection of like law and politics. Find it really fascinating. But that said, I probably the one I would recommend would be a gentleman. His name is Sam Harris.
same here.
His podcast is called The Waking Up Podcast. Sam is a neuroscientist and a philosopher, and he's just really intelligent. He are just really articulates well. He's got fantastic gas. It can be a little heady, but I just think he's brilliant. And just really, really like him a lot. So,
Nice.
so I think that would be the one that I recommend.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna check that out. I love neuroscientists, so that is,
Oh, I do too. And
I
he's
mean,
just he's just really articulate. And again, he has a fantastic guest on there. So yeah,
great.
it's a really good one.
That's a fun recommendation. So yes, thank you for that. And I lied to you. I told you only one more, but
Oh, that's okay.
I, so I forgot to ask you this one. What if for business owners, people listening today, what is the one thing you would love for them to take away from your story?
I would say, that finance doesn't have to be intimidating. You could think of it as being empowering, right? And this force that's going to guide you forward. And just to really think about how this fractional CFO model can really make world-class finance accessible to all founders. And just like it's your partner, right? And even if you are, I know how it is. Like I worked at startups and I know you're just so busy. Like, and you think it's like, I don't even have time to do this job description for this role that I need to fill.
Yep.
But it's just once you do it, it's, always you're just like, you breathe a sigh of relief. And how nice would it be to have, that partner,
Mm.
somebody to partner with you that can handle the whole finance side and really demystify it for you.
Absolutely. And now for my last question. So I am being honest on this one. So for people who have woken up during this episode and they've said, okay, I really am at this part now. Like I have the story to tell, or I've gotten a lot more clarity. A CFO, I need to learn more about CFOs and what they do and how they can help me. And so they want to reach out to you, Heather. They may just want to learn more, follow along your journey, support you, support Sapphire. What are all the ways that people can find you and engage with you?
Sure. Thank you. So, you can take a look at Sapphire CFO Solutions website, which is www.sapphirecfosolutions.com. Sapphire also has its own LinkedIn page, and you can certainly look at mine, and it's the linkedin.com in Heather Hall CPA. I do a lot of, I do typically weekly blogs, like thought thought leadership pieces. I've been published in several articles about, rethinking finance, startup finance, etc. You can also email me directly, which is Heather at sapphirecfosolutions.com.
Nice.
And
Are
my
you is your
contact info is also on my website.
is your blog on your website or on LinkedIn or both?
My on both.
Okay, great.
So on my website, I've got a blog section, and I kind of do like these 5-week pieces. So one might be focused on like, financial modeling. Another might be just like insights. One might be about capital raising, and I'll do kind of like a 5-part series under each main topic. So you can find all those on my blog page on my website, but then they're also on the Sapphire CFO Solutions LinkedIn page
Excellent.
as
Excellent.
well.
Good, good. Okay, I'm glad that those are there. And guys, for those of you like me who struggle sometimes with the numbers, like I feel like if we follow along with the blogs and stuff like that, like because Heather's so great at explaining numbers in a story-like way, I think we can start to understand and wrap our mind around it a little bit more. So thanks for doing that for people as another
Sure. Oh, you
service.
bet. You
That's
bet.
awesome. But yeah, let's follow along with her. Let's support her as we go. And Heather, you've been so generous with your time and with your wisdom and advice for all of us. So I just thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's been a delight, and I can't wait to see where your business goes.
Oh, thank you so much, Britt. I really appreciate you reaching out and having me on the podcast. It was a lot of fun. You're a lot of fun to talk to. And I wish you success as well.
Thank you. I absolutely love this conversation with Heather Hall, and I hope you all did too. Heather, thank you so much for joining and sharing your wisdom. I hope this conversation gave all of our audience a fresh perspective on finance and showed you that the numbers behind your business do not have to feel intimidating. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a founder who could use it. And if you'd like to connect with Heather, you can find her at sapphirecfosolutions.com and on LinkedIn. Okay, that's it for today, everybody. So get out there, go get them, and we'll see you next time.